For 70 years, Mount Everest has kept its lost. Climbers frozen at 8,000 meters don't decompose, they become permanent fixtures. Expeditions have walked past the same frozen forms for decades, but now the ice is melting, and Everest is giving up secrets it was never supposed to reveal. At altitudes where oxygen drops to a third of what we breathe at sea level, Mount Everest has become a frozen memorial in plain sight. Since 1922, at least 344 climbers have been lost on its slopes. More than 200 remain, most above 8,000 meters, an area known as the death zone, where temperatures can fall below minus 30 degrees Celsius and the wind strips away any chance of warmth or rescue. Here, the mountain does not allow for burial or decay. Instead, the lost are preserved, frozen in place for decades. Over time, they have become solemn markers. Climbers pass them year after year, often using them as waypoints to judge their own progress or to find shelter from the wind. The most well-known is Green Boots, believed to be Tawang Paljor, who was lost in a 1996 blizzard. Still clad in bright green mountaineering boots, he lay in a limestone alcove at 8,500 meters on the northeast ridge for nearly 2 decades. For many, Green Boots was the last landmark before the final push to the summit from the Tibetan side. Further along the southeast ridge, the area known as Rainbow Valley takes its name from the colorful down suits of fallen climbers, visible as the snow thins. These are not just reminders of individual tragedies. They are evidence of the mountain's harsh realities, a silent record of ambition, miscalculation, and the limits of human endurance. Their presence raises a difficult question. What happens when the landmarks themselves begin to shift, or when the mountain's icy grip starts to loosen its hold? Bringing a climber down from Everest's upper slopes is a test of human limits, not just a technical challenge. Above 8,000 meters, every movement drains energy. The air is so thin that even experienced Sherpas can only work for minutes at a time before needing to rest. A climber frozen solid and bonded to the rock can weigh more than 200 kilograms, 3 times the weight of a living person. Freeing them requires tools, boiling water, and a team willing to spend hours above 8,000 meters, where a storm can arrive without warning, and frostbite is a constant threat. The cost of recovery is staggering. Each attempt can run anywhere from $30,000 to $80,000, factoring in helicopters, specialized gear, and the wages for a team of 6 or more. But the real price is measured in risk. In 1984, 2 Nepalese climbers perished trying to retrieve a fallen mountaineer. Similar attempts in the decades since have ended in exhaustion or near misses from altitude sickness. Angbabu Sherpa, who took part in the 2024 Nepal Army cleanup, described spending 2 days on the South Col to free a climber who stood locked upright in the ice. The team rotated in and out, working for 48 hours, hands numb and faces stinging from the cold. For Angbabu, the effort was more than a job. It was a burden carried with a heavy heart, like bringing home a member of his own family. Each retrieval is a reminder that on Everest, the mountain often decides who remains, no matter how much money or manpower is brought to bear. The South Col Glacier, perched at over 8,000 meters, is vanishing at a rate that has startled even lifelong mountain scientists. Recent studies published in Nature, NPJ, Climate and Atmospheric Science show the glacier is thinning by nearly 2 meters every year. In just 25 years, Everest has lost 55 meters of surface ice that took 2,000 years to build, erased in a single human generation. That is 80 times faster than the glacier can naturally regenerate. Glacichemist Mariusz Potocki, who led core drilling expeditions on the South Col, put it bluntly. 55 meters gone. That is 2,000 years of accumulation lost in just a few decades. The numbers are more than abstract measurements. As the ice recedes, what was once locked away is now appearing on the surface: climbers, gear, and expedition debris, some dating back to the earliest ascents. Everest is no longer a static memorial. The mountain is unraveling, revealing the cost of both human ambition and a rapidly warming climate. In the spring of 2024, a team led by Major Aditya Karki from the Nepal Army launched the largest cleanup operation Everest has ever seen. Working alongside 18 Sherpas, Karki's 12 soldiers set out to clear what the mountain's melting ice had exposed. Over several weeks, they recovered 11 tons of discarded equipment, everything from rusted oxygen bottles and shredded tents to food wrappers and climbing gear dating as far back as the 1950s. The team also recovered 4 climbers and a set of partial remains, each frozen in place for years before the receding snow revealed them. None were publicly identified, a choice meant to honor the lost and their families. Extraction was grueling. Climbers locked in ice and weighing over 100 kilograms demanded hours of careful extraction. Even with modern equipment, each recovery carried the risk of altitude sickness, sudden storms, and crevasse falls. Since 2019, these operations have removed 119 tons of debris and recovered 14 climbers from Everest's slopes, but an estimated 40 to 50 tons of abandoned material still remain at the South Col alone. For Karki and his team, the work is far from finished. The mountain keeps giving up its secrets, one thaw at a time. On the northeast ridge, a limestone alcove at 8,500 meters became known for a single haunting figure. In May 1996, Tsawang Paljor, a 28-year-old member of the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, was caught in a blizzard that swept across the summit. He never made it down. The bright green boots he wore would become how the world remembered him, turning him into a landmark for every climber on the Tibetan route. For 18 years, green boots lay undisturbed, knees drawn up in the cave, a silent witness to the ambitions and failures of those who passed. Guides and climbers used his position as a waypoint, a solemn reassurance that they were on the right path. If they could see green boots, the summit was within reach. Then in 2014, green boots vanished. Climbers reported the cave empty, the familiar green boots gone. Some believed Chinese authorities had moved him. Others suspected shifting ice and rock. 3 years later, in 2017, green boots reappeared, partially covered by stones, as if the mountain itself had decided to reveal him once more. His presence, absence, and return are not just the story of one lost climber. They are evidence that even the most permanent landmarks on Everest are at the mercy of a changing mountain. As glaciers thin and the ice recedes, what seemed immovable is suddenly in motion, reminding everyone that on Everest nothing stays the same forever. Long before the age of commercial expeditions, George Mallory and Andrew Sandy Irvine set out in June 1924 to reach Everest's summit. They were last seen alive just 240 meters below the top. For decades, the question of whether they made it has haunted mountaineering. In 1933, Irvine's ice axe surfaced high on the north face. Then, in 1999, Mallory was found at 8,155 meters, remarkably preserved, but missing the small Kodak camera they are believed to have carried. That camera, if ever recovered from the thinning ice, could hold undeveloped film, and perhaps the answer to whether they stood on the summit nearly 30 years before Hillary and Tenzing. Kodak experts say film frozen at altitude for a century might still be salvageable. As Everest's glaciers recede, the mountain could yet reveal the final piece of this enduring mystery. New rules on Everest now require every climber to carry a GPS tracking chip and use government-issued biodegradable waste bags. Permit numbers have been cut by 10%, an effort to reduce crowding and the environmental toll. The Nepal Ministry of Tourism has warned that as much as 140 tons of abandoned gear and 40 tons of human waste still remain on the mountain. Glacier models predict that if current warming trends continue, the number of climbers revealed by the ice could rise by 20% before 2030. These projections have forced a reckoning, not just for policymakers, but for anyone who sets foot on the slopes. The cost of summiting Everest is no longer measured only in money or risk, but in the responsibility to those who come after. Each new rule is a reminder that the mountain is changing, and that climbers must change with it. Everest's ice no longer conceals its past. As glaciers retreat faster than ever, losing decades of thickness in just years, the mountain becomes a stark record of risk and consequence. What emerges now isn't just history, but a warning written